more you build your skills, and the more portfolio pieces you have to show, the better chances you have at succeeding in this industry and being able to take your passion and convert it into a full-time job or business or career to be able to make content full-time. On today's episode of the podcast, we are talking about 10 things you can, as a beginner, begin shooting or filming, so photographs or videos, to begin building a portfolio, to land clients, high-paying clients, small freelance gigs, and everything in between, okay? So today we're talking about these 10 ideas. And again, these podcast episodes are designed to go deeper. We're going in depth, talking about the nitty-gritty of this industry and how you can infiltrate what feels like a saturated market where there's photographers and videographers everywhere. Everyone's mom or aunt or uncle is a photographer and gets paid for what they do, right? Well, it's not necessarily the case, okay? There's a pretty wide open industry for high quality content creators, specifically people who have great communication skills and really good project management and organization, okay? So those are some themes and trends that we're going to talk about on these later podcast episodes. But today, if you're just a beginner or if you're a pro alike, you might find some inspiration here, kind of revisiting those early years of your career and what you were shooting. So we're going to talk about that. Now, these 10 things are all things that I shot as a beginner about 8 years ago, as I started trying to figure out what it's like to build a photography portfolio and eventually video production. What did I need to do? What did I need to shoot to begin having clients recognize that what I am creating is valid, it's solid, it's worthy of being paid top dollar for these kinds of products and services? So that's the setup. And let's dive into number one. And the first thing you can start shooting as a beginner is going to be products. Okay, this is product photography or videography work. Now, this could literally be anything, and these are just working with any brands. This is stuff you have lying around your house, right? Here's a nice Hydro Flask water bottle. You could do a Hydro Flask commercial. I actually shot a fake Hydro Flask commercial about 5 years ago that I never aired because honestly, it wasn't that good, but it taught me a lot about directing and filmmaking and directing talent and producing and getting permits to shoot in different locations. So it taught me a lot about video production work. So that's doing product work, right? These are what we call spec ads in the video world. Spec work has kind of become underrated and people love working with high paying brands right off the bat or shooting weddings and spec work. These types of products, product reviews, product photography, all of these things really help build a quality portfolio because that's what brands want to see. They don't necessarily care about the size of your business, the size of your followers on social media. They do care about what kind of brands you've worked with and your voice as a creator. So when you choose to work with products, you're kind of putting your stamp of approval on things and also putting your voice out there as, these are the kinds of videos I want to produce. So think about that as you're wanting to enter into this professional world. What kinds of brands and what kinds of products do you want you as a business owner to be in the position of advocating for and having a voice for, right? So this is product photography. That's number one. And frankly, is probably the quickest path to wealth as far as generating income from your portfolio, right? So brands work with companies and clients and freelancers who have quality portfolios and can prove that they are solid and can understand a creative brief, right? So like parameters for a creative project or an objective. They'll give you a brief. They're hoping to achieve these X, Y, and Z outcomes from the video or photo catalog that you produce for them. That's a creative brief. They want to see that you have the ability to provide that for them as a company. So product photography is number one. Now, moving on to number two, this is a little more fun, a little easier to achieve, frankly, is nature photography. Okay. So this is something that I kind of actually what started my production career. The reason I'm sitting here today filming this video is because of my love for nature photography. It was my sophomore year of college that I kind of went through a tough phase where I was really just trying to explore what my passions were and where do I want to be in life? What are things that I want to do long term? I found my identity a lot of being an athlete and playing college football and historically and all growing up just playing sports and finding my identity around that, or the people that I was around, the relationships I was in, and didn't really understand fully where I wanted to take my creative career in the future. And then it was around this same time that I was discovering my love for photography, and I was going on nature hikes and shooting these wonderful like seeing these photos online of the Pacific Northwest, of these wonderful waterfalls that had these like slow shutter speed water trails. And I was trying to figure out like, how is that even achieved? And I'd go out and go to these waterfalls. I went to Multnomah Falls, shooting all these beautiful shots of these waterfalls. And I would start using these slow shutter speeds and wondered why is my entire image just completely white? Like, what is going on here? And I didn't really understand how shutter speed worked, and how if you have a shutter speed that's you leave the shutter open for 10 seconds, you're letting in 10 seconds worth of light. I didn't understand that at first. And so that began this process of understanding like, okay, well, how does aperture work? And if I stop down my aperture to f22, maybe it compensates for the amount of light coming in with a slow shutter speed, but now everything is in focus. And what if I only want the waterfall to be in focus and want the foreground to be a little blurry, and I'm losing that depth of field? So nature photography is what really started helping me understand the exposure triangle. I shot a lot of night landscapes where I would go like on the Oregon coast and shoot beautiful shots of like the Milky Way, or like a beautiful bridge on the Oregon coast. I would do that a lot. So nature photography is really what got me inspired. And what got my immediate base, I'd say all of my closest like day ones, like my friends and family, had them start recommending me like, oh, Craig, like you do photos, right? I've seen all these cool photographs of you shooting landscapes and stuff. So do you do other types of work? And so nature photography is a great place to begin for that. Okay. Nature photography brings us into number 3. Number 3 is very similar, and this is what I like to just call street photography. Some people might call this like landscapes, but really it's just getting out in whatever city you live in and shooting just candids in the street. Okay. Now, if you live in a big city, there's probably a lot of opportunity for you to get out there and shoot some wonderful architecture of beautiful buildings, maybe even purchasing a drone and going out and taking some drone stills or footage. So there's a lot of opportunity in big cities, but I know that people who are in smaller cities might think, I don't have really a lot of streets. There's not a lot of neighborhoods. There's not a lot of cool buildings or national parks around me. That's okay. What you can do is go and like shoot some photos of some like abandoned warehouse or buildings, or if people own a farm, like you can go to their farmhouse and figure out like, hey, like, could I go and shoot photos of your barn for like some creative portraits, some cool black and whites, experiment with different kinds of like street photography? And wherever you go, there's people. Ask people on the street who you think are interesting. Talk to them and say, hey, I think you're a very fascinating kind of individual. Or, there's people who like street performers, all sorts of people that you can just go take photos of on the street. Okay. So street photography is a great place to grow your people skills and to be able to experiment with different ideas, different focal lengths, right? So you can do really wide landscapes of large buildings shot at like a 16 millimeter fisheye. Looks very fascinating to just the average consumer. They're like, oh, how did you take that photo? That photo looks really interesting. So street photography is a great place to grow your creative skills and just be inspired. I can always come out into my city here in like Salem, Kaiser, Portland, Oregon, and find cool things to take photos of. So street photography is a great option, okay? Now, number 4 is going to be taking senior portraits. Now, I know when you were probably in school, you probably had to take your senior photos, right? Your mom wanted to have your senior portraits taken, and you didn't want to do it. And you were like, well, man, I don't want to get all dressed up. I don't want to get my polo on and my nice designer jeans. I mean, this was me back in the day. I had to wear my V-neck t-shirt with my designer jeans. I had this terrible like goat beard. It was like only the goatee. People call me the goat in school. Oh my goodness. For the wrong reasons, by the way, not because I was the goat in any way other than I had this terrible, like just chin beard. They call me the Billy Goat. It was rough. So don't make that mistake, kids out there. If you're a kid watching this, get that goat beard off of your chin, okay? But that's besides the point. The moms and the dads, they want the senior portraits of their kids. And this is something where you're able to get paid even if it's $100 or $200, $300, this is something that if you've grown and you've taken product photography, nature stuff, street photography, you're beginning to build a portfolio. You're going to start having moms and dads in your community reach out to you and say, would you be willing to take senior photos of my kids? And this is a great opportunity for you to get one-on-one experience with directing and posing clients and being able to have that kind of like intimate connection where when you're a producer or director, you're really responsible for the outcome of the product. And a lot of that depends on your people skills and your relationships with others. So senior portraits are a great place to grow in understanding what it's like to direct a person one-on-one and really get intimate in that portrait session, not in a weird way, but in an appropriate way where you can understand like the dynamics, the relationship dynamics of what it's like to like take photos of someone. I always use this approach where I start back. So I might have like an 85 millimeter. So I can be a little bit further back from my subject to start. And then I work my way in. So I start with an 85 and maybe swap to a 35 and then maybe start to a 24 or the reverse. I'll just have like a 35 millimeter on, but start really far back and tell them we're going to start wide and then I'm going to work in over time throughout the session. And we build that trust throughout the session. So this is a great way to just grow in your creative skills as a photographer and as a director doing senior portraits. And this brings me to number 5, which is family photos, which is very similar. Small group of people. This can be an immediate family. This can be your family. This can be people you know, extended relatives, people you know from your community, people at church. All of these people need family photos, whether it's once a year or once every other year. People in your community love family portraits, and it's a very similar process, in some ways a little bit easier than senior photos because you have more people to work with. So it's that complicated dynamic of trying to direct more people at once, but it's easier to pose multiple people, I think, because there's only a certain number of positions you can get a group of 7 people into or a group of 5 people into. They kind of all have to be oriented inwardly facing each other in some way, or maybe stacked by height or something, and then looking towards the camera, right? But with senior portraits, it's only one individual. So to get creative, that one individual, you got to try different poses. So family photos are a great way. And again, this is a very quick entry point into getting paid at least a little bit for your services. So maybe it's $100, $200, $300. I know a lot of people who charge $1,000 for family photos. And if you live in an area that's a little more high income, you might be able to charge a little bit more for those families who want their portraits taken. So that's a great option. That's number 5. Okay, number 6, sticking with this theme, we're going to talk about birthday parties. Now, birthday parties are significant for a lot of reasons, right? So there's probably, I'm guessing, if you're watching this podcast, you probably know someone who has a baby, okay? If they have a baby, that baby is about to turn 1 year old or 2 years old or 5 years old or 10 years old, okay? That 10 years old would be like a full-grown child at that point. But anyways, the point being, these are significant milestones for these parents who want photos of their baby. And they don't want to be the one during the birthday party. I can speak firsthand here. I have a 9-month-old. His 12-month birthday is coming up, or 12-month. His 1-year birthday is coming up. And I don't want to be the one to have to take all the photos of him, okay? I want somebody else to handle that responsibility. I don't want it to be my wife. I don't want it to be me. I just want to be there and enjoy the birthday party. So there's people, and it might end up being my mom or another person who wants to, take photos. But there's professional photos are really awesome to have. And I remember my nieces and nephews taking photos at their birthday parties. And it's so interesting to have to like experiment with these little kids and get on their level, try to wait for the right moment, wait till their eye is just in the right position and they're looking up at you. And it's a lot of patience and practice. So birthday parties of young kids are great, but also birthday parties for older people who are reaching some of their milestones, like 18 years old, 21 years old, 50 years old, 100 years old, 80 years old, some of these big milestones that people like to celebrate. Those are great opportunities to capture some content and deal with people. People are always interesting to photograph. So find yourself a birthday party to photograph to get some practice, okay? My wife mentioned this number 6 there, birthday parties, and I thought it was a great idea because I thought back to my career taking photos, and I definitely remembered that phase where I was shooting a lot of birthday parties, and it grew a lot of my skills as a photographer. Okay. Number 7 is volunteering at your church. And if you don't attend church, I'd encourage you to even just take a look at what's in your area as far as churches. And, you might find one that you'd like to volunteer at and volunteer services for video production or photography. And volunteering at a church and working at a church as a communications director for 3 years is actually what really launched my video production career. And I started shooting these high school and middle school camps, summer camps, where I would produce these like crazy recap videos of these kids going wild, doing these crazy like tricks in the pool and playing basketball and just doing these like really lit like camp videos, right? That's kind of like where I got my creative style, began to develop doing these things. And then that transferred into doing concert work, because at church camps, there's a lot of like worship stuff that happens too, where, music, worshiping, lights, smoke and everything. And then that translates to concerts really well. So I started doing these church camps and then began shooting some of my first concerts, and my style kind of developed right around that time. And it really benefited me, the ability to shoot these church camps. So I'd encourage you, take a look at your local church, see what is going on in the community. Maybe they have some discipleship programs that they need content created for. Maybe they have live events. Nowadays, a lot of churches go online for their services, and they need production team volunteers. And that is such a crazy opportunity if you get to be on a live production team, and you get to learn so much about live production work and all of the camera and technology that goes into using to running a church live stream. So take a look at that. Take a look at your local church. And if you're not into church, there's probably other community events that you could take a look at to get that same kind of niche that a church volunteering position provides. Okay, coming in at number 8 is animal photography. And here in America, we love our animals. Animals run, I think, like, I saw some stats sometime that was like 85% of people on Instagram enjoy watching videos about like cats, like cat Instagrams. And I know a lot of people that hate cats, so I don't know if that's true, and I could just be totally making that up, so don't quote me on that. But what I know is I love watching cat videos on Instagram. So never mind just those funny, weird videos about cats and dogs and all these crazy animals. Animal photography is actually a pretty lucrative industry. People love their animals. People treat their animals as kids. And as someone who has kids, this kind of drives me nuts, because a baby and a kitten are wildly different things to me, but I understand the sentiment behind people loving their animals. My wife and I, we had a cat for a while, and we loved our cat, and we want a dog. So people love their animals, and it's a great opportunity to grow, to learn patience when shooting a subject and someone who might be hard to work with. Animals are very difficult to work with. So now on all of these new like Sony cameras, they literally have like settings where you can choose the priority, whether you're shooting people or animals or even groups of people. It'll decide like which face do you want to focus on and what even eye do you want to focus on. So shooting subjects that have eyes, not just like inanimate objects, but subjects that have eyes, can help you with eye tracking and learning how to use eye tracking and all of these new camera softwares that are upgraded with the latest technologies. So animal photography is a great way. Shooting birds can help you learn how to shoot on telephoto lenses really well. So shooting on like a 70 to 200 or even further, a 100 to 400 millimeter lens lets you practice like what it's like to shoot at higher shutter speed and outdoor environments. So lots of things you can try here with animal and wildlife photography. We just have a couple more here. If you're getting value, here's just a quick reminder to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, because we've got more podcasts like these coming out, and we love going deep here on this channel. So I hope you're getting some good, solid value out of this podcast. Okay, number 9 is to second or third shoot even a wedding for someone. Okay, so I run my own business, and part of what my video production company does is provide wedding film and photography services for people. So one of my wedding packages is a package where I bring a whole team of people to the wedding. And this sometimes is upwards of 5 people, where I have me directing the day and then a couple of videographers and a couple of photographers. And I kind of just manage that whole team of people, right? I also do this for live events and other stuff around my community. So lots of things that my production company does, but I'm always looking for people to second shoot for me. And there's photographers all over America who need second shooters. There's even people who go on like, who shoot out of state or out of country and need like someone overseas or someone in another state to help second shoot for them. So check your local listings, check with your local wedding venues. This is a great way to get connected. Check with your wedding venues and ask, hey, are there photographers who you regularly work with? Are there people on your recommended board that I could reach out to? And these venues and these wedding coordinators will have contact information for all of these photographers and filmmakers. So reach out to them and just offer your services. You can even do it for free say, hey, for the first couple, I'd love to just come out and shadow you. You can do whatever you want with the files. I'm just trying to learn. I'm just trying to grow. And most likely they'll be willing to bring you on board. Okay. I know that if it was me, especially if you offered to do it for free, so I didn't have to pay you, I'd be happy to bring you on board so you can get that shadow experience. Now, another great way that you can offer your services to them is for behind the scenes work. Now, a lot of photographers and videographers who do this full time, frankly, there's like some vanity in the ability to like, oh, I'd love to have my process documented for my social media, right? And in some ways I feel that too. It'd be great to like, you're always behind the camera, so you don't often have a team of people shooting stuff of your production company. It makes a lot of great content. So you can offer these behind the scenes services and say, hey, can I get the experience being on set at a production or on set at a wedding? And I will film you. I'll take photos of your team and you can use those for social media or website promotion. But this still gives you the experience for seeing what it's like for a filmmaker to direct a wedding or to produce a wedding, all of this stuff. So make sure to explore that option of getting a second or third or even a BTS shooter on set at a wedding. Okay, that's number 9. And wrapping up here with number 10 is to shoot local events, things like fairs, conferences, festivals, parades. All of these are great opportunities for you to create very interesting content. One of my friends, Spencer, I'll hopefully link his contact here, created this amazing video of his local, I think it was like the fair in Minnesota, made this awesome collaborative video with a bunch of other filmmakers in his area where they just made a really cool recap about the fair that he attends. I know here the Oregon State Fair is a big thing, and I actually live in the city that the state fair takes place in. So it's a very easy, just like 3-minute drive to the state fair where I can create a lot of really cool content centered around a lot of cool people. People are really interesting. At the state fair, there's also like musicians that come. So you could just bring your camera and right there, you're shooting like concert style photos for free. You don't have to ask really for a press pass or anything. Just go try to get a really good seat and practice taking photos of live events like concerts and such. So I remember when I was first starting out, I also shot this really interesting like Memorial Day parade. It was a paid gig where I only got paid like probably $250. But it led to more freelance gigs down the road. So that's the deal is when you're just starting out, you kind of got to take what you can get. But these local events are a great entry point into being paid just a tiny bit for your services, which then lead to you building a portfolio and gaining more and more experience and getting more and more networking and clients in your back pocket that you can just reach out to and say, hey, is there work you need done? And the more you build your skills, the more portfolio pieces you have to show, the better chances you have at succeeding in this industry and being able to take your passion and convert it into a full-time job or business or career to be able to make content full-time. If you guys found value out of this podcast, let me know down in the comments below. Have you done these things? Have you done, numbers 4 and 7 and 3? Have you done these to build portfolio pieces? Where are you at in your video career? I'd be very interested to hear what kind of listeners we have for these podcast episodes and who is wanting to go deeper. Again, these podcast episodes are designed for those of you who want to go deeper and learn more about what it is to be creative here on the channel. Be sure to subscribe for more podcasts here in the near future. Thanks so much, guys, for stopping by. Much love.